everyone, happy Wednesday. It's Alysia here, and I'm very excited to be with you today for our weekly global online fireside chat. Today I'm broadcasting to you from a very nice and early Silicon Beach, California. Silicon Valley's up-and-coming younger tech sibling based in Los Angeles, the home of Hollywood, the global epicenter of the film industry, and some famous tech startups including Snapchat, SpaceX, BuzzFeed, Netflix, Boingo, and Tinder. To all those entrepreneurs and inspiring entrepreneurs out there, we have a very important topic for you today. Given the need for resilience to succeed as an entrepreneur, our panel of global experts will be discussing Zero to Hero, recovering from failure as an entrepreneur. Our global panel shares their thoughts. Now I've got you all excited. Let me go ahead and introduce you to our VIP guests before asking them to properly introduce themselves to you. Welcome to Delhi, India-based Tejveer Singh, who's an entrepreneur, product fanatic, and business development expert. Welcome to Johannesburg, South Africa-based Michelle Kalalo, who's a global banker, investor, consultant, and director. Welcome to Jamaica-based Vernon Wilson, who's an entrepreneur, investor, and strategic leader. Welcome to California-based Hotz Tumeke, who's an entrepreneur, business development expert, and digital marketer. Welcome to Jerusalem-based Jeremy Pesner, who's an entrepreneur, technologist, and researcher. And welcome to Kenya-based Robert Rotuk, who's a digital strategist, marketer, and branding expert. Now, I know you want to hear from them, so let me go ahead and ask them to properly introduce themselves too. Starting with Tej. Tej, please say hi to everyone.
Hey, very happy Wednesday to everyone out there. Thanks a ton to Alysia and Darren for inviting me again over for this session. A quick intro about myself. My journey more or less coincides with the way the tech story has unfolded and evolved in India. I've got close to 18 years of experience in this segment. From the highs of seeing and leading India's second most oversubscribed IPO, to the euphoria of raising funds, to shutting down a venture. I've seen and been part of the startup segment for some time now, and I'm really excited today with and I'm looking forward to hearing some exciting stuff about how this journey adds value to your life. Actually, I know though the topic is around failure. But the perspective which we would definitely like to bring to today's discussion is how this constant fear of failure or those dark alleys of failures actually finally end up adding value to your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tej. Very excited to have you join us in this very important topic today. Hotz, would you please like to say hi to everyone?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to join this morning early from San Francisco, where I'm based at the moment with our startup, eventerprise.com. I'm a Berliner who is living in Cape Town and America, and I'm very excited to share my wisdom of over 20 years of working in various environments, and also I think have a good understanding of what it takes to persevere a challenge like starting a business and going through this, and also seeing failure as a constant opportunity to learn.
Thank you very much, and you definitely bring a global perspective. Excited to learn from you today. Jeremy, please say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy Pesner. So happy to be here, and Shavua Tov for the Jews listening. So I am currently an Israel Government Fellow based in Jerusalem, where I am the Public Policy and Regulation Fellow at the Israeli Ministry of Science. I'm working on topics including international research and science collaboration, open data in science, digital exclusion in Israel, and other related topics. Looking forward. This is my third fireside chat, so I'm very happy to be back.
Welcome back, Jeremy. You're a global young thought leader. Excited to have you join us. Robert, please say hi from Kenya.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be part of this amazing session. So maybe just to give a very, very brief introduction about me, I'm a digital strategist. My core focus is on digital marketing. That is getting different kind of audiences to interact with different kind of products across the digital platform. So in Kenya, more precisely across Africa, I lead in digital marketing in about 25 online brands that span across the entire of Africa. So my core focus is in trying to get many more Africans to the internet platform and ultimately being able to buy from an online perspective. So in a nutshell, that's about me.
Thank you, Robert. And given that you're living in one of the most exciting parts of Africa and a tech hub, we are very excited to have you join us today. Vernon in Jamaica, please say hi to everyone.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you this morning. Vernon Wilson here from Jamaica. I am an entrepreneur and focus on financial technology and learning all the aspects. I focus on leadership, looking to do stuff in the future, example, listing a small entity.
Welcome, Vernon. Again, very excited to have you join us. And last but definitely not least, Michelle, please say hi from South Africa.
Hi, everyone. This is Michelle. Thanks, Alysia. Thanks, Darren, for having me again for the second time here. It's always a privilege to be part of this team and to discuss. So what I could say about myself is really that, yeah, I have many years in banking. I started in London. Then I went into consulting in different countries, Canada, in France, and eventually I came back in Africa, in Botswana, working with government. Then I joined again a regional bank for a few years, working closely with the CEO. And last year I started company, a firm that is really focusing on financing projects in Africa, projects that have an impact in development. We are completely sector agnostic, and we look for funding, and we also put our own funds in projects that we like. So this is really about me, and I look forward to the chat.
Welcome, Michelle. Very excited to have you join us. Now, I know you want to learn from the best. We're going to jump into our questions shortly. Just a quick some shout outs on the screen, of contact details for our VIPs. Feel free to reach out to them. Don't forget to keep sending your questions through to inspireme@onlinefiresidechat.com, and we'll do our very best to get them answered. Just a reminder, we're very proud. We have community champions and ever-growing meetup groups in over 80 cities in 60 countries around the globe, including in North and South America, the UK, Europe, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and of course, Australia. If you'd like to meet up with one of your local chapters or you'd like to start your own, feel free to reach out to us via email or do our very best to put you in contact with your local community champion. On that note, thank you to all our volunteer champions from around the globe. I know I say this twice a week, but you're the heart and soul of our community, and we wouldn't be here today without you. Over the next few months, our aim is to inspire and empower entrepreneurs in more than 100 countries, and we know that together we can make this happen. A huge thank you to our VIP guests for joining us today and sharing your knowledge so freely with our global community. Thank you to all the presidents, prime ministers, ambassadors, and growing family of supporters and collaborators from around the developing world who are once again hosting sessions for hundreds of entrepreneurs who don't have access to necessary bandwidth or understanding of the English language to join our sessions on their own. Again, thank you to the ministries, UN offices, US Embassy Corners, World Economic Forum, British Council offices, university campuses, schools, business incubators, Chamber of Commerce's, community centers, and community radio stations for all your weekly hosting support and for raising awareness within your regions. Thank you again to everyone from our UN Women team for all your support as well. Once again, we're very privileged to say we're streaming across new live platforms today. If you have a community radio station that you'd like us to broadcast from so we can connect with more entrepreneurs around the globe, please make sure to reach out to us so that we can keep inspiring the world. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we want to jump on in and start learning. Just to make our VIPs feel extra comfortable, our topic for today is Zero to Hero, coming back from failure as an entrepreneur. Now, this is an incredibly important topic, and I know our VIPs have amazing insights to share. Just so our VIPs understand how it works, we're going to pose a question to one of you, but it goes to all of you. Please feel free to be 100% honest. We are here to learn from you, so we want to hear the good, bad, and ugly of what it means to really be a true entrepreneur. Now, starting off very easy, let's put Hots on the hot seat. Are you ready?
Yes.
So here
Born
we go.
ready.
Born ready. That's what I like to hear. So you've lived in Germany, and Germany has a certain culture when it comes to entrepreneurship. You're spending a lot of time in the US, a very different culture as far as entrepreneurship goes. In many parts of the world, failure is seen as a dirty word. Yet in some of the most successful startup hubs in the world, including in Silicon Valley, we're applauded for failing and trying again. Share your thoughts with us, Hots. Please go ahead.
Yes. So I think very interesting for us is to see that at the Enterprise, where we are a startup which is born as a global company from scratch. So we have got deep insights into the work of our different hubs where we are producing what we are doing. And we can see clearly that the cultural awareness of how the term failure is determined as a very big important factor of how actually successful a startup is. And in Germany, where I grew up in Berlin, we are a very engineering-driven nation where we first finish things right through and engineer them to the end before we actually, and then we also prototype it, and then we test it, and then we go out and show up in the marketplace with cars and with the products which we're having. And this is a big difference between Germany and other nations where, for instance, in America, you do this actually the opposite. The first thing what happens in a startup in America is that they are building the sales team and then talk about what they will do. And the vision from everybody is bought in. And then when it doesn't work, then they change it again. So this whole concept of agile and changing and being on top of things towards a marketplace, which is also changing very fast, is more forgiving in different economical environments. And we can see this clearly with our business case.
Fascinating insights to open up today's session. Thank you so much, Hots. Robert, you're in Kenya, some awesome stuff happening there. Please share your perspective in terms of what Hots was saying.
Thank you so much. Yes, well, Kenya here has been quite well known across Africa for some amazing startups. Remember, we're probably the world's leading platform for mobile money transfer, where you can be able to actually send money from home to someone else just using your mobile phone. One of the biggest disruptive ideas across the entire globe, perhaps, as I might say. Well, with that has come up, so many other businesses now trying to rely on this platform, whether they can be able to actually boost up their sales and leverage on this kind of platform to be able to actually earn more in terms of their overall kind of revenue they generate. Well, in a nutshell, just to give a basic analysis of many startups across Kenya and the whole concept of actually having failure as part and parcel of the overall growth curve in terms of the different startups. Well, a good number actually go through the same curve where they actually have a point in time where they actually have a huge or a massive failure, but then the most essential and important bit is actually deriving out learning from it. So, well, I've encountered a good number of startups who try to really leverage on the online platform, but in one or two other ways, they end up maybe over budgeting, and in the long run, they get to some huge failure and they have to actually change their entire business models. But what has always been key is actually being able to derive a more enhanced learning in terms of the kind of failure you use and actually use it as a springboard to push you forward to your next platform.
Thank you, Robert. Absolutely fascinating insights being shared today. And talking about failure, our next question goes to Tej. And I know you invest in a lot of startups and you've been a successful entrepreneur. Tej, again, you're in one of the most exciting places in the world as far as startups go. Why do you believe so many startups fail, even given the speed at which things are growing in India?
Well, I guess I had addressed this question last time around also when I was in the fireside chat. The problem which we have in most of the countries around the world is the tremendous influence which the Silicon Valley holds on us. India, has the demographic advantage right now of having one of the largest, youngest population in the world. And so the millennial community, typically in the age group of 18 to 35 are the ones who are actually going ahead and starting up right now. So when they're starting up, what they do, they are so tremendously influenced by guys like SpaceX, Story, PayPal, Facebook, so Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. So all these big industry, Silicon stalwarts have influenced them quite a bit. So what's happening in India is typically the kind of products which are getting rolled out, they're not focusing on the actual Indian story. We're talking about products like which are typically, they have the perfect product mix in a country like America, USA, or probably Europe continent as large. But when you talk about the Indian story, we have different kind of challenges and problems which we have in our system. So if your product is actually not built for the ecosystem in which you're actually staying and living and breathing, chances are very high that there would be a very high mortality rate. In addition to that, the other problem which we definitely have over here is the ecosystem which we have woven over the last half a decade. It's still loosely, connected to each other. Unlike what you have on the West Coast or the Silicon Valley, where you have a lot of good incubation centers, and a lot of industry leads who are actually mentoring and grooming the young entrepreneurs. In India, this is still evolving. I think it's going to take another couple of years, 2 to 3 years, before actually this model shapes up in the right way. And when it does, the mortality rate would definitely go down then.
Thank you, Tesh. Again, we love having you on the session because you share such fascinating insights. Jeremy, you've lived in New York, you lived in Washington, D.C., you now are in the startup nation itself. Let's hear your thoughts in terms of what Tesh was saying and why you believe so many startups fail.
Thanks, Alysia. Well, before I answer that question directly, I'm going to take a minute to say what we're talking about. Let's define failure. What does it mean to fail? And that's a theme I'm going to come back to later on in this chat. In this case, what failure means is that the startup no longer has enough money to pay its employees and to continue existing. And so the question is why? How do we get to that space? How does the startup run out of money? So that's really the fundamental question that I'll get to first. And I think in different locations, that answer will be different. So in Israel, I can say it's the startup nation, and that means that there's so many startups that come out of Israel, especially for a country of this size. It's about on par with New Jersey. So everybody there is founding a startup. If you're not founding a startup, someone in your family is starting a startup, one of your friends is running a startup. So many startups per capita in Israel, which means that in the sort of VC model, there's less money to go around. Not only is everybody running a startup, the type of startups tend to be somewhat similar. As people say, they see the success and say, oh, we can run this B2B, tech platform over here. So I'm going to do a startup that does the same sort of thing. So the idea is that if we get a lot of startups that are somewhat similar and running in the same part of the world, running under very similar cultures, it's going to be hard for people to figure out where the money needs to be allocated. So really, when we're talking about what makes startups fail, it's really sort of a capital question and a question of allocation. Similarly, in other big megapolises over in the States, you run into somewhat similar questions, partially because in New York and DC, people are transient. Those are cities in which, there's lots of people who live there, but unlike some other cities in the US, lots of people are entering and exiting New York and DC all the time. You may come and live there for a few months, for a couple of years, and that's great. But then it's sort of hard to build a base there. If you're building some company in New York, you may take it over to San Francisco at the drop of a hat, or vice versa. So these are places, so in the States, it's less about like the location, I would say, and more about sort of what type of startup you're working on, if that's helpful.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I know Hotz has got some insights he wants to share in terms of what you were saying. Please go ahead, Hotz.
Yeah, I was just inspired by what you were saying related to what failure actually means. And I think that is very important to understand that in different cultural contexts, failure has got a different meaning. And I believe successful startups just don't allow to make failure feel themselves as a failure, because as you said rightly, 90% of businesses are not failing because someone is doing a mistake. They're failing because they cannot access the funds. And if you look at the numbers there, then everybody perhaps knows, or those who don't, the funding amount is not evenly spread across the globe. That means companies are getting more money who have got more proximity to hubs where the understanding of startups is better. And that is the next point which you have said. Israel, for instance, is growing significant in the last years, and still Silicon Valley is leading the way around this. where the third generation startups are putting money into the system, and that has a big meaning. So I really urge everybody out there to not define failure as a personal aspect of their life, because then it gets part of your story. And if you see it as an opportunity, then it is the opposite and a learning, and then you will always race from there, because it is really experience.
Thank you, Hot. Absolutely brilliant insights being shared today. And our next question goes to Vernon. Michelle, we'd also love to hear your thoughts, as well as your co-panelist thoughts. So, Vernon, you've gone from being a banker to being an entrepreneur. Many people talk about this being a very different and difficult transition. In your opinion, what are some of the most difficult elements you've experienced of being an entrepreneur? Vernon, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Some of the most difficult experiences. Now, what I've learned planning to be an entrepreneur over many years is that if planning is prior to the action, then maybe the difficulties will be reduced. So during my banking career, I had already planned to be an entrepreneur. I researched and made a 20-year decision prior to being an entrepreneur. So some of the difficulties that are experienced, I would have researched sometimes how to manage them before they occur. And some of these difficulties, could include, for example, funding. It includes the team that you will work with, and the help and assistance you will get from the experienced entrepreneurs. So some of those difficulties that affect a lot of startup entities, I would have put some of those planning in place before. Now, in my community, failure is not yet mainstream as a means of forward motion. So I would say failure sometimes for entrepreneurs is the lack of expectation planning. So there was this excellent expectation to deliver in maybe a very short time, when sometimes I think if you under-promise and over-deliver, it could help you to reduce some of the things we call failure. But at the same time, I must say it could hinder, potential investors who probably need to hear, the great expectations. So I think failure can be managed. And I think here in Jamaica, where I operate, there are great opportunities. But I don't yet think that we see failure as a means of moving forward.
Thank you, Vernon. Fascinating insights being shared today. Under promise and over deliver. Great advice for all our entrepreneurs. Michelle, do you want to quickly share your thoughts on this question? And then I think Tez has also got some insights he'd like to share. Michelle, please keep your answers short. Let's hear them.
All right, Alysia, thanks. I think really the question is about the transition from, let's say, a banker working for an institution into now starting your own company as an entrepreneur. For me, one of the biggest challenge was around the system, right? Because for you to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to have a great system, right? And banks are one of the best in terms of systems, in terms of procedure. Things are very well organized. But in the life of an entrepreneur, it's very, very different. So one of the biggest challenges was really for me to set up a system. I'm not saying that I have achieved it 100%. I'm still in my, I would say, learning curve, but that would be it. And maybe the second one has to do with the fact that the reason why people go to institution rather than individual or boutique firm is because of the name of the institution. So you could be a great banker working for a fabulous institution, but then when you start on your own, you no longer have the blanket name of the institution. So you have again to establish yourself. So that's the second challenges. But for both of them, there are solutions, and we are trying them, and I think we're doing pretty well.
Thank you, Michelle. It's critical information that re-establishing yourself, going from a big corporate to an entrepreneur, very challenging indeed. Tej, I know you had some insights. We'd love to hear them. And then we're going to jump on to our next question, opening it up to thoughts. Tej, please go for it.
Yeah, so firstly, the most important point here is, how do we perceive failure, right? So as per the lexicon, the dictionary says lack of success is failure, but there's also a dark side of failure, which is, which basically, you have synonyms like defeat, negligence, disaster, catastrophe, fiasco. So these are the dark definition of failure. As per Wiki, failure is a state or condition of not meeting a desirable objective. And that's the way I would actually like to look and perceive at failure. The most important element about failure is whether we can actually, especially when it comes to starting up, is there a process, a way or an approach via which we can actually bring down the rate of failure? To which I would say, yes, there is. If you're getting into something which is not a niche segment, which has never been tried before, like for example, SpaceX would be a very niche segment. But something which is not a niche segment, has been tried out before, you have a better chance of succeeding if you have a processed approach to it. And probably, we would be coming to those points later in the discussion. But yes, even in terms of failure, there's a certain sanity attached to it. There's a certain process attached to it. And we just need to figure out, we need to be smart enough so that we screw up things less.
Thank you, Tej. And talking about succeeding, this next question goes to you, Khotz. Do you believe that second and third time entrepreneurs have ultimately a better chance of succeeding?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends a lot on a lot of circumstances. So a generalization about this, I think it's difficult to say. What is true, though, for us is that the expertise and the experience which you have is perhaps growing, and then will make the rate of success higher. But I believe it is a combination of a lot of factors which are coming together, that you're hitting a sweet spot in a marketplace, and also get the funding with the right team. And you also have to consider one very important thing, that you have to wear a lot of hats at the same time. And if you are getting around that, not this right support, then that doesn't matter if you do this 3 times, if you can't get the right kind of finance expertise or market knowledge. So I would say it's not a rule that then if you failed that you can come back. Those who have and who are not seeing the failure as failure, I think are quite successful, because they just, as I said earlier, define that a little bit different. So they just say it's an experience, and then they move on. And societies, depending on where you are performing this, are more forgiving around that.
Thank you, Khotz. And I know Jeremy had some insights he wanted to share in terms of what you were saying. Jeremy, please go ahead, and then we look forward to hearing from Robert and Tej on this question. Jeremy, please, let's hear it.
Thanks, Alysia. I think one thing important to remember about being an entrepreneur is that there's no job description. If we think about what the day-to-day of even just all the entrepreneurs on this call would be like, I'm sure they're very different. If we compare this job to, say, a programming job or a banking job at a large organization, you can define your scope. You can talk about what you will be doing, and you can talk about what you won't be doing. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to define that for yourself. You have to essentially create your own job description, because there's no telling what your responsibilities are actually going to be on a day-to-day basis. And of course, no one can do everything. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So the more times I think you have a go at this, the more competent you'll become at saying, like, I'm good at this part of being an entrepreneur, but I'm going to bring on some support and some teamwork for the other parts.
Great insights there, Jeremy. Robert, I'm sure you have some insights you quickly want to share, and then I know Tej had something he wanted to add. Robert and Tej, Robert, please go first.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, when you're looking at the most important and fundamental question of what success really is in entrepreneurship, I think that 3, perhaps just 4 key factors that should always be underlined. One is having the whole idea of exactly where you're going as an entrepreneur, that you have certain specific set goals that within this time frame you'll have achieved this and this, and this is going to be your measure, this is going to be your indicator, and ultimately you can be able to equally measure the overall return on whatever investment you've done. And secondly, you have to have the dedication to it and the consistency to it. And I mean, most importantly, you have to actually have a purpose as to what exactly you're considering as a success in whatever venture you're doing as an entrepreneur. So ultimately, when you're looking at the overall concept of what exactly would you define as success in entrepreneurship, I think having that exact definition would always vary from one kind of business venture to another business venture, especially at the digital sphere, considering that this whole sphere keeps on metamorphosizing every other single day.
Thank you, Robert and Tesh. I know you had some questions, insights you wanted to share there, and then we have a follow-up question for you as well. Tesh, please go for it.
So the question you asked was whether a second-time or a third-time entrepreneur has a better chance at it, and I would say yes. If the answer to that is no, then probably that person is in the wrong place. Simple reason, you're supposed to learn from your mistakes. First time, I'll give you share my own personal experience here. In my previous venture, which was an EdTech startup, we literally blew close to $500,000 on perfecting our product. The product didn't even get shipped out. But before it even got shipped out, we had actually gone ahead and squandered close to $500,000 just on building. Now today, if you ask me if I'm building a product, how would I approach it? I'll go the complete agile way. I'll roll out sprints. I would go ahead and break it up in 3 different sprints. So these are experiences which you learn on the go, on the job, right? So the answer to that is yes. I personally believe the person has got a better chance to making it second or third time. Third time is even better, I guess.
Thank you for your honesty. This is why we're here today, Tesh, and that was actually my next question. And we'd, of course, like to have your co-panelists' thoughts on that too. Tesh was very, very honest, and we admire him for his accomplishments, given the fact that he is so humble and so accomplished. Could you tell us more about your experience in overcoming failures to ultimately reach the success you've achieved today, Khotz? Please go for it.
Sure. So I was in a startup in South Africa like 7 years ago, and that was very successful. Outsourced marketing services for mid-size and SMEs and bigger companies in South Africa. And then the economical climate has changed dramatically, as some of you might know. And we just saw this coming, and I was then making the call to finish this business and go into something which has then more global meaning, and where I could also bring home more my own heritage of being a person who has lived in various different environments, and that was for my clients a hard call, but I did the right thing, because and then like the decision to do something not, I think, is something which was helping me a lot to grow then into the next thing. So that was very important for me.
Thank you, Khotz, again for your honesty. Having personally experienced the challenges currently being experienced in South Africa, we all know what it's like. And congratulations on all your success today. Very impressive. Michelle, we'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of personal challenges you've had to overcome to reach your success. And then Vernon, we'd like to hear from you too. So please go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah. Thanks. I think for me, really, one of the main issue around the system was actually to put a process that will help me have to offer my service in the market, right? I just realized that the way in the bank we do business is through a fantastic system that really is well matured. And an answer to that, when you face an issue around the system, then you need to find a proper process and to stick to that process in order for you to deliver your service. So I think process is key in achieving success. That's one. And then two, around the issue of not having maybe the name in the market and the reputation. I think what I've learned is that as I was working for an institution, I built relationship, and those relationships were actually enabling me to go there and sell my services no longer as an employee of an institution, but as myself. So I would say it maybe stating a bit obvious, but we must never underestimate the importance of relationship and ties in developing business. So that's my two.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much. Vernon, I know you've got some insights. Tej and Jeremy also want to share on this topic. We admire all of you for your honesty. Vernon, please share with us what it's been like for you in terms of overcoming failure to achieve your success, and feel free to be as honest as you want. Vernon, please keep your answer short. Let's hear it.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to touch back a bit on on failing. You know, the question was if the second time, you know, entrepreneurs should have a better chance of success. So just to touch on it a bit, I think the answer is yes, but then sometimes the entrepreneur may, you know, proceed to take on higher risk, maybe in a new industry. And this is something like I did, for example. And, you know, you may fail in one area, say marketing, or maybe attracting capital. But that doesn't mean, in my mind, a business or an event failure. It meant failing in a specific area. So it simply means that you should draw upon, plan for it. You know, the next time around, plan for it better. So that is my view on failure. In terms of some of my experience in failing, you know, in my community, Jamaica, and we operate alternate finance entity. Now, the drive for this entity, you know, is to look at the long-term option of, you know, maybe listing on an exchange or any such probable exit. However, some of the, you know, the failing points are like access to human capital. You know, that can be tough, you know, to find the right personnel to support the drive. Also, you know, access to suitable local or global network of like-minded persons. And, you know, for this, I say, hooray to fireside chat. You know, it's good to be a part of a community like this. So the points of failure will always be there, but I think it is important to plan before the points come and discuss these things with partners, you know, with like-minded persons like people like you here on Fireside Chat.
Awesome, awesome. Sorry, everybody. We have tons of questions coming through today, and our panelists are very popular, so we just got to keep our answers short. Tej, I know you have some insights you wanted to share there, as did Jeremy. Tej, please go for it.
Okay, so I'm going to break it up in bullet points for everyone, loud and clear. You know, in terms of the process or the approach, when you're actually starting up, what should be? Firstly, point number one, validate your idea real fast. Target getting some POCs. Proof of concepts are very important, and please do not, do not build those POCs, you know, by getting some funds from someone else. Do it on your own. You need to bootstrap it. Point number two, build a plan which compels you to sign off your own check. That's a very important element. Point number three, build the right fit team. I'm not saying the right team, I'm saying the right fit team, because you need to complement each other. Point number four, network. Network well and get yourself a mentor from the same domain. Point number five, go agile. Roll out small builds. Don't look for big, large rollouts. Point number six, get a reality check. Keep listening to your customers. Keep accumulating all those feedbacks. And point number seven, don't ever spread yourself too thin. If you can just pick up a bag which weighs 5 kg, just pick that much. Don't go for something which is like 7 kg.
And that's why we invited him back, everybody. He's that good at what he does. Jeremy, please share your insights in terms of what Tej was just saying before we jump into our next question.
I nearly failed out of college. And when I tell people that, they're very surprised. Oh, you're so smart. How could that possibly happen? Well, at the time, I was asking myself the same question. And that was the lesson that taught me that intelligence, or whatever sort of initial trait that you grew up and knew you were good at, is not enough to carry the day. I had to reconsider who I was, what I was good at, how I moved about in the world. and I had to develop additional competencies. One of the competencies that was new for me was getting used to talking to people, getting used to putting myself out there, finding out what others were working on, and expanding my network. And one day I was working on something and somebody told me to talk to somebody named Alysia. So that's actually what brought me here today.
No, thank you, Jeremy, because you're one of the most confident people I've ever met. So thank you for that honesty. Love it, love it, love it. Now, Chutz, going back to you, be 100% honest. Did you expect your journey as an entrepreneur to be as hard as it is, or did you expect it to be easier than it is? Please share.
I think you come to a very interesting point, which is another reason why many companies are not making it to the last round, and that is that this is a really true endurance race. And the obstacles you are facing along the way, in our case, we are doing this in 4 years now, are really various and also partly unforeseen. So the mindset and the wiring of your mindset, and I always call this the reason why you are, the reason for being an entrepreneur, is getting then very, very important. I have the privilege that I'm surrounded by a team with over 80 years of combined executive knowledge. So we all have got a bit of experience and have been on a few rodeos, and that helps a lot to go through this. To answer the question in short, I was not expecting this, but I think the wiring of our team is very good because we just endure. You know, we are really good in challenging. We call them obstacles. You know, we never call them problems. We call them obstacles, and we find them really interesting. And I always say, like, the bigger the obstacles, the higher the hierarchy you go up, and if they're really big, then we end up at the executive team, and then we have to tackle them. And that's perhaps, but there is really coming a lot of stuff along your way, and you have to truly test your spirit around this to see if you can be a successful one.
Thank you. And I'm going to quickly jump in before we get Tej's thoughts on this. Does listening to Tony Robbins, going to Tony Robbins seminars, these types of things, does it ultimately help you keep going and become more resilient as an entrepreneur? Please go ahead, Chutz.
Yeah, so I think in my case, it is then the good side of being also, I've got a German upbringing. So we kind of endure early to get taught that things not necessarily have to be always easy, and that there is an easy way out. And I did a lot of sport when I was young. So for me, I learned that trait early, and it helps me a lot also to be now a leader to my team. And Anthony Robbins was a mosaic on that, just helping me also to get the wiring right. I think that was helping me a lot. Just for those who don't know him, is a motivational speaker, which does seminars, and I joined a few, and I got something out of this. Yes.
Thank you, Chutz. Tej, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what Chutz was saying. Please go ahead.
Mentor has a very important role in your life. If you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to get someone who can actually guide you and show you the right direction, it's a big boost. And to double it up, if you get actually a mentor who's from the same industry vertical, it's like a double whammy for you. So, these are very important pieces. And the most important part here is that, the very word entrepreneur actually means adventurous. It's a French word, and it means adventurous. You're adventurous. Okay. So that's why you ventured out. And now, since you've ventured out, please ensure that you are never running out of fuel. Every day you're like breaking yourself down and then reinventing yourself again. It's a never-ending process. There's no light at the end of this tunnel. It's just a never-ending journey. So, you need to actually keep yourself completely balanced. You need a very strong mentor or a very good network to keep talking and getting those feedbacks at relevant points.
Thank you, Tej. And unfortunately, we are running out of time. But just to hear from Vernon. Vernon, did you always have someone to confide in and to discuss your setbacks with, or have you gone it alone?
Yes, I definitely planned for this before. In my initial discussions with experienced entrepreneurs, I find that not having a network of like-minded persons could really bog you down when you need to discuss difficult situations, or you need advice or suggestions. not having a suitable network, you know, could be a disadvantage. And so prior to being an entrepreneur, it was important for me to become part of a local network and also to continue to look for a suitable global network. And as I've been said on this call before, having an executive team that is very experienced in our industry and in leadership has really helped me to, you know, maintain resilience.
Thank you, Vernon. And I know the word resilience keeps coming up, absolutely critically important when it comes to this type of thing. And of course, we want to just hear from Robert, and we want to hear from Jeremy. Robert, quickly, as short as possible, did you always have people to confide in, to discuss your setbacks with? As an entrepreneur, have you tried to go through it alone? Please just share your insights and the role of your team, etc.
Yeah, sure. Well, in every successful entrepreneur, there's always a mentor, someone who you'd always want to confide in, someone who you'd always want to have to actually hold your hand through the entire journey. Definitely, while setting up a team that you'd actually get to want to work with, there's certain specific qualities that you'd actually want to derive from each and every single member of your team. One, obviously, you need to actually have a deeper understanding of the kind of abilities, the talents that they can actually bring on board whilst the entire team actually collaborates. Well, while talking about a mentor, one other quite essential and important aspect to actually look for is one who actually has that level and gap of experience, who could always guide you that previously might have gone through the same thing, but at some point actually had to change and can actually guide you. So definitely there's always the experience bit about your mentor, which is actually quite fundamental in having one who will actually guide you for your entrepreneurship journey.
Thank you, Robert. And we're quickly just going to hear from Jeremy and then Tej, and then we're going to run through our final questions for today. Jeremy, please hit it, and then Tej.
Thanks, Alysia. I'll echo everything that everyone has said about a mentor, but I'll take it one step further. Take a community, have friends. A mentor is someone who you sort of have this sort of top-down relationship with, someone who is guiding you. But you want a community, you want friends as well who are in it with you, people who are going through similar yet distinct experiences from you, people who you can talk with not just about your business, but about life, people who are actual friends, who you go over and enjoy a beer with, who you go out on trips with. And I know that was helpful for me because these friends were sharing jobs, not even to me, but on Facebook groups of which we were both members. And because we were all part of this community, I was able to reach out to them and talk with them about their experiences. And you know what they say about the strength of weak ties. The jobs that I've gotten have rarely come from the people I knew well. It's come from the people in the community I really hadn't talked with that before. So mentors are great, but go further.
Thank you, Jeremy. And Tej, we'd love to hear your thoughts before jumping on to one of our last questions for today.
Yeah, so I'll concur with what Jeremy just said. Partially, I would say. What's really important is, and that's the most important piece. When you're building your team, you need to, you probably are, you need to identify key elements within the team itself. The team itself could actually function both as a community and as well as a mentor. Now, what actually is a mentor is a very open question. It's a very subjective question. I know too many people in my network who keep saying that I'm mentoring XYZ startups. This is a full-time job. So when you're looking at, getting a mentor on board, you're looking at someone getting real-time, full-time for you. Second element, which is obviously very important, is the team fit, getting the right team fit. So internally itself, when you're building your team, if you have set of people who are critical, if you have set of people who are self-motivating, if you have set of people who are very pragmatic, this is the right way of building your team. So you need to be really smart here to understand what skills do the other persons bring into your value system. Now, we keep hearing all this stuff, but practically this is the way it works. You need to do it. And if you do it this way, it's going to work, it's going to work for you.
Thank you, Tej. And unfortunately, we are running out of time today, but we're going to jump into one of our last questions for today before moving into our favorite sections for every week. So, now that we've had this session today and knowing our panelists from around the world, do you ultimately believe that failure is an important function of becoming a successful entrepreneur?
if you get the word failure right in your head as an opportunity, yes.
Love it. Failure equals opportunity. Michelle, do you want to quickly add your thoughts there before we move on to our last two sections for today?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think actually failure should be part of, if there is a formula, it should be part of the success formula. It's part of the learning curve that we all have to go, S curve, J curve, call it the way you want, but you have to go through that in order to improve. And actually entrepreneur, and that one I wanted to say also is a French word that actually combine two words, which is entree and preneur. So entree means to come in, and preneur is to take. So basically, it's actually as if you were like coming into something which is new, and you're saying, "I'm there, and I'm there to win. I'm there to take something." So that's really the whole idea.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, our favorite part of today's show, we get to ask our VIPs what excites you in 2017 and what industries are ripe for disruption. We go around the panel very quickly. So whatever pops into your mind, that's the answer we want from you guys. Starting with Tej. Tej, what excites you in 2017? What industries are ripe for disruption? Go for it.
We go back to the roots. I'm pretty excited about the way the agriculture segment is probably going to get a lot of boost and push and stimulus in India, especially. I think that's the way forward. We should not forget the roots. The traditional industries have a very important role to play, and that's how the employment also gets generated. So that's one segment which I'm very very optimistic about. The second one is education. I think as a global community, we are getting the world is getting smaller and smaller now. STEM is such an important development. I'm very gung-ho about STEM. I think it's got a huge it actually would unleash a huge opportunity for everyone.
Thank you, Tej. Jeremy, what excites you in 2017? What industries are ripe for disruption?
I'll keep this short. Blockchain, IoT, energy, and gaming.
Love it, love it, love it. What industries are ripe for disruption? What excites you in 2017?
Event technology platforms and SaaS, software as a service.
I'm sure Christian's going to be very excited to hear that one. Vernon, what excites you in 2017? What industries are ripe for disruption?
What excites me in 2017 is the opportunities that I have scheduled to pitch for capital. And I do think the point of sale financing market is ripe for disruption in my market area.
Thank you. Robert, what excites you in 2017? What industries are ripe for disruption?
Well, the robotic industry definitely is a big thing for this year. That's one. Two, looking at virtual reality possibly as a commercial reality is another big disruptive, especially in this part of the continent. Definitely also looking at we're having iPhone 10 or iPhone X, whatever they say, is coming on board. So I'm looking at it from a technological bit, and definitely there's a lot coming in for this year.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And Michelle, what excites you in 2017? What industries are ripe for disruption?
Definitely my industry, financial sector, like Vernon said, it's definitely right.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Now we're going to ask our VIPs to prepare their tweet piece of advice that we can all learn to overcome adversity and become super successful entrepreneurs. In the meantime, thanks to everyone for a truly amazing session. Just to keep you posted on our upcoming sessions with some of the world's best joining us again as VIP panelists. On October 4th, we have a very interesting one. Bitcoin, is it a fraud? Our global panel shares their insights. On the 8th of October, data and AI, new tools, changing work in industries, what's happening, what to expect, and what to think about. On the 11th of October, fundamental truths that will change your life as an entrepreneur. And then on the 15th of October, inspiring women investors, women changing venture capital and corporate innovation. These are sessions you definitely don't want to miss. And just to keep you posted, do keep in contact. Our VIPs love hearing from you. We love hearing you succeed. So now, the moment you can always find me on LinkedIn as well as our VIP guests, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's ask our VIPs to share their tweet piece of advice, starting with Kotz. Kotz, please share your tweet piece of advice.
Well, so I have got a motto which is, I think, interesting for the audience. I have to add value, real value to a system, and my motto is that it's possible, everything is possible. Also, it's possible, everything.
Awesome. Jeremy, your tweet piece of advice. We seem to have lost you.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Sorry. There will be failure, but don't own it. Move on.
Love it. Tej, your tweet piece of advice.
So failure is the precursor to success. That's the way it is. And to sum it up, greatest ode to failure is success.
Love it. Robert, your tweet piece of advice.
Simple. Technology, digital is the next way.
Thank you, Robert. Vernon, your tweet piece of advice.
Failure is inevitable and a part of the entrepreneurial journey to success. So fail forward.
Cool, very good advice. And Michelle, your tweet piece of advice.
Yeah, Vernon, actually, you read my mind. That also my quote. It's really let's all learn to fail forward. It's really the way to go, like John Maxwell said.
I know Hotz agrees as well. Everybody, thank you so much for an absolutely amazing session. If you enjoyed today's session and you benefited from it, please make sure to share the invitation. We are trying to reach our 100-country goal, and we know with your help we can get it right. My tweet piece of advice is be grateful for everything you have. We are living through some very scary times. I live in London. We had a terrible terrorist attack earlier this week. We must be grateful. There are exciting things ahead, but we got to stand together as entrepreneurs to change the world. Never forget what a privilege it is to be an entrepreneur. Thank you again to everyone for a truly, truly, truly amazing session. On the count of 3, I'm going to ask our VIPs to shout bye. So, guys, please shout bye. 1, 2, 3. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.